My son Lewis is type 1 diabetic.
My mother's type 2 as well.
My godson Max has type 1 diabetes.
I'm at risk of developing type 2.
Diabetes is an issue with your pancreas, where your body either doesn't produce its own insulin or doesn't produce enough insulin. So basically there's two types of diabetes. There's type 1 and there's type 2, which tends to be more older people, or people will suffer that later in life. Type 1 primarily affects children and young people.
My name is Catherine Allen and I am a type 1 diabetic.
For type 1, for a parent, the things that people really should be very vigilant about are thirst. If your child's very thirsty, if they need to go to the toilet a lot, tired and thin. So if they're tired and they're losing weight. With toddlers and babies, you tend to find it's very wet nappies. It seems to be a key indication that something's not right. With older people, teenagers, again, losing weight, being very tired all the time, lethargic, not interested in life. And with type 2 diabetics, it's usually people don't tend to lose weight with type 2, but you might find you're going to the toilet more, especially waking up during the night. Your eyesight might be a bit blurry due to the extra sugar in your system, and you might just feel very tired as well.
Over lockdown in 2020, I lost something like 15% of my body weight. So I went to the doctor thinking it was something to do with hormones on my thyroid. I never even suspected diabetes because it doesn't run in my family. And yeah, he took some blood and came back and said, yeah, you're diabetic.
For type 1, I would say the most common misconception is that it's been somebody's fault. Type 1 diabetes is in your genes. It's an autoimmune illness and it tends to run in families. So for example, if a parent has it, it's more than likely the child could, not always, develop it. It goes with type 1 as well, it only affects children. We do have adults being diagnosed as type 1 as well. And for type 2, that it's lifestyle related, it's not always lifestyle related. Depending on your genetic background, for example, if you're from an African or Caribbean background, Indian background, you're much more susceptible to being prevalent to developing type 2.
I don't have a huge sweet tooth anyway, so it's mostly just swapping out sugar for sweetener in my tea and limiting the amount of carbs, like white bread, because I do love bread. Having to sit and work out if I make a big meal and then split it up to have for lunch and then breakfast. Having to count, weigh how much pasta and then measure out how much sauce and add all that up together and divide it. It's a lot of math, which I'm not great at. Yeah, the carb counting is probably the hardest. I told the rest of my family to, test my nieces and nephews and things, so it's affected my wider family a bit more.
I suppose nearly all the money raised will go back into research. That is the biggest thing we're working on, is finding a cure for type 1 diabetes and also making sure people living with type 2, eventually could maybe not find a cure but could live better with it. Also providing support for families, groups for adults. We put on events called Family Network Days, and that's where parents of type 1 children can come along and spend time with other parents. These are usually in big hotels with activities, so they're quite expensive to fund, and also local group activities, so that adults maybe meeting other people with type 2 diabetes, and perhaps to fund a kind of event or an outing for them as well.
I think it's good to do research and find better treatments and better ways of managing diabetes and the results of mismanaging diabetes, and to have a community where you can go to and say, hi, this is happening to me, help, and have other people who have maybe gone through something similar come back to you and say, it's okay, this is normal, here's what to do, here's how to help. I think that's a really good thing.
We don't actually get, sort of funding from the government or anything, so it's mainly grants. Steve Morgan Foundation. Steve Morgan is a very, very well-off English businessman. He's funded a lot of our research into finding a cure for type 1. Fundraising, that is really key to what we do. We do get grants from National Lottery and places like that, but fundraising really is one of the things that does keep us actually ticking over. Oh, there's so many things you can do. There's always that kind of misconception that fundraising actually is always an activity that involves like running a marathon or climbing a mountain or something like that. There are so many things you can do. You could do something in your office, you could do something like a bake sale, you could do a sponsored walk, take part in our kilt walk events, take part in Edinburgh Marathon. We have some online fundraising on Facebook which we brought in during the pandemic. And these are things that you can do in your own house, like push-ups, going out for a walk. There's our swimming challenges, million steps. There's loads and loads of different things you can get involved in, and we do get some quite off-the-wall ideas sometimes, but it's really good to see that people actually are, thinking outside the box and challenging themselves as well.
I mean, the ideal goal is a cure. But things like upgrades on Libre sensors and the introduction, at least in the UK, of Dexcoms and insulin pumps, because obviously they aren't as prevalent here. I feel like that would help me the most, as I'm not particularly fond of injections.